Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Buying Back Your Time with Technology webinar. I'm Bradley. I will be hosting today. First, I would like to introduce some people. So I'll start with Andrew. Andrew has been in real estate since 2013, leading one of the most successful teams in Washington, D.C. He was the head of operations for a while and head of their systems, and realized that there's a couple enhancements he could make on his end, so especially with the CRM side of things. So that laid the foundation for what is today known as Billions. So I want to come up and introduce Andrew. Hey, Andrew, how you doing?
Hey, Brad. Nice to be here. Thank you so much for playing host.
Yeah, no problem. And where are you tuning in from? I forgot. It's New Jersey too, right?
No, Alexandria.
Alexandria, Virginia. Okay.
Yeah.
And then next up, I want to introduce George. George is a seasoned MarTech professional, 15 years, and a Salesforce director of 15 years. Very innovative, creative guy, and he's up here to help talk about implementation and data transitioning. George, how you doing?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Bradley, for hosting.
No problem. And then lastly, I want to introduce Tannor Giles. Tannor is the chief operating officer for a leading team in Eastern Tennessee. Tannor, how you doing?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll bring the presentation up here and we'll get started. A couple housekeeping rules for everyone who's joined. If there's any issues arising, just try a different browser. Feel free to use the chat at any time. We can post your questions or inputs up on the screen and talk about it. There will be a Q&A afterwards, so if you want to keep your questions for the end, feel free to do so. And at the webinar is recorded, so if you guys would like the recording, feel free to reach out to either someone on the Billions team or Microntnetbd team, and we'll get the video to you as well. The agenda, the housekeeping, we just went over that. We're going to talk more about some of our speakers, take a poll, and then we'll talk about how Salesforce is innovating in the real estate industry, the Microntnetbd advantage, and any questions or next steps will be saved for the end. So like I said, we brought on Andrew. It's a little bit about him. He's the founder and CEO of Billions. And then we got George, the founder and CEO of Microntnetbd, a little bit about him right here. And then of course, Tannor Giles, the CEO of the Kings of Real Estate team. Thank you all for joining. Like I said before, we're gonna take a quick poll. We got two questions here, and then I will explain. Just put the answers in the chat format, like put like 1B or like 2C based on what letter aligns with what you want to choose to the question number. The question number 1 is the top one, and question number 2 is the bottom one. We have what is your biggest challenge in real estate right now? We also have what type of real estate model are you using? So like retail, wholesale, maybe like a hybrid model, a bit of both. And then also for the top question, like, are you struggling with lead generation, market analysis, property management, or anything else on that list? Or if there's something else that's not on the list, feel free just to put that in the chat as well. I'd love to just hear from all of you. Seeing 1E, yeah, technology integration, and then 2C, so hybrid model. Wow, okay. 2 hybrid models. We got 1A, lead generation, 1E, okay, technology integration. Anyone else here? Yeah, 1A, 2A. Nice. Okay, so thank you all. We will definitely talk about the hybrid model and the technology integration and the lead generation in this presentation. We got 2A as well, the retail. Nice. Got a retail model. Okay, I'll move on here. So technology is reshaping the real estate in ways we couldn't have imagined. From virtual tours and blockchain transaction, the industry is undergoing a digital revolution. Now, today we're not going to be talking about virtual tours or blockchain transactions, but it is very important to note that the industry is undergoing a digital revolution. And so we'll be talking about how to optimize and automate the real estate process today. And without further ado, I will hand it over to Andrew.
Thank you, Brad. Just for a little bit of context and background history purposes, I just want to take a couple seconds to explain where I kind of came from and why Billions came about. But I actually started a real estate team back in 2013 in the Washington, D.C. area. And it was my role as the chief operating officer at the time to develop our systems, processes, and technology stack. And I was on all different kinds of platforms. And over time, I would hit some system functionality limitation and either have to find another third-party tool or solution to integrate or connect with each other, or get off the platform and get on a brand new platform. So long story short there, I think we were on probably 5 or 6 different platforms. I won't name drop now, but maybe Tannor will. But I just got really frustrated and said, you know what, I think we might be able to do this a little bit better. And partnered with Salesforce, built it out of a pure necessity for our own team first. And then as we traveled around to different coaching events and masterminds, there was a lot of feedback of, hey, can I have that? Can you put this and implement this into my team as well? So that's kind of where the genesis started. It was like something that we just had, kind of like a lot of entrepreneurs. You build it for yourself, and then other people kind of hear about it and then get interested in it. So that is essentially where that came from. And then just to kind of introduce Tannor a little bit, if I may, he's actually the longest tenured Billions customer that we've had. I think you've been on the platform for about 2 years, 1.5, 2 years now. But he runs a massive team in Tennessee, and I'll let him kind of talk about Billions as we go through, or if you wanted to say something now about the platform.
I can wait till later, but I mean, at the end of the day, I needed something to, I needed a program to help my company move forward. You know, we kind of stall out around 300 to 400 deals, and you kind of get, brain fog dealing with 5 to 7 different programs, and something's going to break and there's going to be a ball dropped. So, I needed a piece of technology that brought it all in house, and Billions was it.
Cool. Yeah, and feel free to chime in. Brad, if you could go back to the slide, I'll kind of talk to it. But the entire reason why Billions exists is to house everything. What we like to refer to, Brad, is like the source of truth or the source record. So before we had a platform like this, we were kind of, tab hopping, screen hopping from one solution to the next. And we said, how can we make this a little bit more efficient? And there's a lot of studies out there from Harvard and Yale about mind flow state, where when you're getting into a deep work state of mind, how it can get interrupted going from literally one screen to the next, or a screen to a phone. So what we did was we took it in-house and said, how can we keep people on one platform so they wouldn't have to do that? So we're not only a CRM, we like to look at ourselves as an operating system. And an analogy that I really like to use that seems to be resonating is, you can start a burger company, right? And you have to kind of piece it together from scratch, from like the meat, the location, the building, the cash register, the flow of the restaurant, et cetera. Or you can just go buy a franchise like McDonald's or a Five Guys, and we're that latter part. So we help a lot of people by by affording them the opportunity to have that franchise team model tomorrow instead of 6 or 12 months from now, and then having to spend a lot of money trying to piece it together themselves. But there's the overview section here is we encompass everything from a time a lead says, you know what, I'm interested in buying and selling, all the way through close, and kind of everything in between. And that involves, I'll kind of just read through a little bit, but lead management. So we have that CRM component, and Billions does a really good job of proactively telling a team leader or an owner or anyone user in the system when things aren't being done. And Tannor, I know you can attest to this because we've had a lot of conversation around this, but there's a big difference having a platform that will tell you when, you're not looking at leads or talking to leads, versus you as a team leader having to go in and say, hey, Bradley, I gave you this lead a day ago, and there's no evidence you even talked to this or attempted to talk to this person. So in terms of the CRM, that's super helpful. And it's chock full of all those little nuances. That's one small example, but I know Tannor, I'll kind of let you speak for yourself, but I know that was a big thing, like proactively having a system tell you when your team was doing what they should be, right?
Yeah. It's, my need for change came out of the amount of appointments my ISA team books. So like last week, we booked 107 appointments for the team. So that's just a lot of management they have to deal with when it comes down to assigning the appointment out, making sure the agent went on it, making sure that the appointment form and post-appointment notes and everything was done. So traditionally before this, we would be in a spreadsheet in like 3 or 4 other systems, sending emails, and it just gets lost. But in Billions, I mean, I'm able with, 40 different agents and 6 or 7 different ISAs, we can work with, 100 plus appointments in a week and not drop the ball on anything.
Yeah. And the whole idea behind this is to buy back your time, right? So you're not spending a lot of time in the system. The system's actually proactively telling you about appointments, right? Getting set and what's happening on it. Bradley, if I may, I see a question from Will Green. I'm just going to go ahead and read the question and answer it.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
We get data from multiple sources that we need to manually skip trace. Can this be implemented? And the answer, Will, is yes. That's an additional feature that you would enable. But we have a data enrichment part of Billions where you'd be able to come over to the Tannor lead and click a button and skip trace. It's called data enrichment. That's a part of data enrichment, what's publicly available. But we can do that for phone numbers, emails, and then property information as well. Don't hold me to this, but I think there's around 293 pieces of information about a property that we have the ability to go and get if you want to go and get them. But that's an additional feature that you would enable on the back end. So hopefully that answered your question, Will, but feel free to ask a follow-up if you have any. And then Bradley, could you go back to the slide? Rachel asked, is there mass email and text functionality? This is the funny one, Tannor. So the answer is yes, with a caveat. There's been a lot of FCC government regulation about mass texting. I am not an attorney and I'm not saying do it. I am saying consult your legal team around this. But we had mass texting ability and we've removed it. That is something that you have to make that decision on your own, whether or not to do it. But 100% you can mass email. I'll just touch on this for 1 second. And then Bradley, if you could go back to the prior slide. But Rachel, mass emailing and mass direct mailing can be done out of Billions as well. You can send one-off emails and one-off mail, direct mail, like physical mail via the US Postal Service, or you can send 25,000 emails or 25,000, 100,000 pieces of mail if you want to. That's another feature that you would have to enable or turn on to take advantage of that. But yes, you can do that right inside of Billions. I just wanted to touch very briefly on the streamlined workflow that Billions kind of follows as the graphic that you see with the arrow. But essentially, the way we did Billions is we took Salesforce, and Salesforce can do a million different things a million different ways. But we said, what's the most lean platform we can create and the easiest way for someone to kind of learn and navigate it? And in real estate, there's really 5, and this is true across the country, but there's really 5 phases of any real estate journey from a prospect to closed client. And that's the lead comes in, you set an appointment, you sign a buyer agreement, listing agreement, or direct purchase contract. It goes under contract pending or an escrow, whatever vernacular you use, and then it closes. And the way Billions works is there's one way to do things and one way only, and that's it. So it makes learning the system pretty fast, and you can adopt it and adapt it very quickly. And then for training purposes, if you're on a team, it's got siloed, compartmentalized features. So if Tannor has a lot of inside sales agents or appointment setters, their job is to work the lead, have it reach out to people, and then set an appointment. And then all they do, Tannor, is click appointment form, fill it out, click save, and all this awesome automation happens. And maybe Tannor, you could talk about what that looks like just a little bit here.
Sure. So, we did manipulate ours a little bit because I've got a couple different appointment types that we do. So, it's not like it's set in stone at what you see. So I know everybody functions differently. And that's what I like about what we've got here is that if I need to tweak something, I can change the way it reads and it still functions the same way. So, you book the appointment, you click the button, and what'll happen is the appointment form gets sent to, for me, it's my sales managers. The sales managers then, they look at everything that needs to be assigned for the day from the dashboard. And then we just click, assign appointment to whoever the best agent is at the time of that appointment. And then an hour after the appointment, the agent who got the lead or the appointment is notified to do their post-appointment form automatically. And then it happens again at 4 hours. And then I think I've added another one in at like 24 hours or 12 hours, something along those lines, just because I don't like following up manually. So it's just something we added. If you don't have it by X date and time after appointment, send another one. And it's like a big red flag, critical mass to get it done or you're out of appointments for the week. So that's like the premise of the appointment assigning and then post-appointment form done automatically.
Yeah, the idea, everyone here, is you just kind of move some any of the leads or prospects or clients from one phase to the next by submitting this single form that's customizable, like Tannor just touched on. And then it alerts who needs to get alerted. It fills in the fields that need to get filled in. It even integrates with calendars and email. So you get instant notification without, for example, signing a listing and having to come back and tell the team, hey, I signed this $1 million listing and here's the 20 marketing pieces we're doing. The agent can sit in their car on our free mobile app and submit that information right then and there. That particular email can go to the entire marketing team. So in real time, they're getting updated on, Tannor, the agent just signed another deal and we're throwing the entire marketing book at this. So let's get to work, saving you time, money, and energy just with that instant notification. So that's the buy back your time functionality and optimization here. And it's just chock full of that. But that's pretty much it. You fill in, a new lead comes in, an appointment, a listing sign form, an escrow, and then a close. And you just do that repeatedly all over and over. It's repeatable and predictable. And the reason why we do this is because if something does go wrong, at least we know the process and we can audit that process and see what happened. And Tannor, I ran into this all the time on my team, but we had a bunch of agents, and even just moving it from appointment to listing status, an agent over here would do it one way and do 10 things. An agent over here would do it another way and do 20 things. And then you're like, well, what's happening here? And then if something broke down, it was almost impossible to, triage because everyone on the team was doing it differently. And we had 20, 30, 40 people involved in this platform. It was almost impossible. So the key here was putting control the controllables, right? Control every variable through the use of these workflow forms that are streamlined. So that's an overview. Just real quick, Brad, before you go to the next slide, but we talked about the CRM lead management, but we also have document management embedded for free as well. So you can get rid of whatever you're using, Dropbox workspace for your document management. And then it encompasses listing and transaction management, as well as commission management and data and analytics. And Tannor, I only bring this up because I intimately know a lot about your business since we've had a lot of time together. But we were able to, I think, get rid of 9 or 10 different softwares for you right off the bat and bring everything in-house.
That's correct. And I was able to save like $100,000 a year on labor and payroll because I don't have to manage all of those. I don't have to have people managing all of those programs.
Right. Cool. Brad, would you mind going to the next part? So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but this is kind of the first component here, the Billion CRM aspect. We touched on the lead tracking, but Rachel, to your question, this kind of works in here. But when any lead comes in, we have stuff called, we have a feature called Billions touch plans that you can use to have the system automatically reach out on your behalf through texting, emailing, direct mailing, and you can even task your internal team to follow up and make calls. Everything also is recorded and stored in here in case you were wondering. So if you have the dialer enabled and the texter enabled and the direct mail enabled and your email connected, everything kind of works like a Facebook wall with newest activity on top. But every call is recorded, every text message is stored, and that is it was a godsend on our team because we could always go back if Tannor, the lead, came in January and we didn't talk to him until June. No clue who he was, out of sight, out of mind. And a million other Tannors came in. But so we use that to go back and kind of refresh our own memory. And then it's very efficient. And Tannor, maybe you can talk to this a little bit as well, but on our team, when we set an appointment and gave it or assigned it to an agent, they would get access to that lead. And then the due diligence came on them to listen to the calls, read the text, see the direct mail, and bring themselves up to speed, which in my opinion saved, I mean, I don't even know how you track that, or I'm guessing thousands of hours a year of our ISAs being taken off the phone to explain the appointment they just set.
Right. Yeah, we do that along with, it's more of an accountability part after the appointment's done. So like if I've got an agent on the team and they get an appointment and let's say a week goes by and there's no calls, there's no text logged and recorded in the system, that's just my cue that, okay, this lead, this agent's no longer treating this customer the way I want them treated. So I just remove it and give it to somebody else. They lost their opportunity for that deal because they're not following my system. So that's how that works for me as well.
Right. Will Green asked the question, how do I track my pipeline and where my deals are taking longer? That's a great question. So this is a little bit later in the presentation as well, but I'll talk to it for a brief second. But as you are following this streamlined workflow, guys, so submitting appointment forms, listing sign forms, close forms, etc., there's actually 135 plus data and analytics in the background that are getting updated in real time. And Will, that includes your pipeline. So I kind of was guilty of this in my earlier days before I had this system of a whiteboard behind me or a Google spreadsheet that my executive assistant was updating. And it was very difficult and stressful for me. So our Billion system now replaces all of that. So as you are moving, literally every time you're clicking save, if one of the fields in any of the forms is affected, it will automatically update every single data report, et cetera, across our entire analytics background for you. In our system, there is no manually updating anything, quite frankly. You just submit a form and everything happens for you. The one cool thing that a lot of people like is instead of having to stress about finding the data, you're manipulating the data to show it exactly what you want to see from a graphic representation. And what I mean by that is you might track Tannor, you might track by the quarter, and I track by the month. Out of the box, some of these reports come quarterly, but with a few clicks, you can edit, say sort by month over month or quarter or year, and then click save. And within 10 seconds, you're now seeing it from how you all want to see it. And that's extreme flexibility around data and analytics so you can make an informed decision on what's working and what's not.
I've actually got multiple reporting set up for daily reporting, weekly, monthly, quarterly. So I look at everything that way.
Right. And then just a really quick to expand on that before we go to the next slide, Brad, you can also manipulate it to show you, how many appointments did we set this quarter by appointment setter, and then either manipulate that report or create a different report by lead source or by revenue. So it's very, very flexible to tell you what you need. And again, this is something where I had a coach, Tannor, and he'd say, I'm coming to see you in person in a month. I want to know every lead by lead source, by appointment, what the conversion rates were, by agent on your team, by lead source on your team, how much revenue was brought in, what was the return. And I would be so stressed because everything was everywhere, right? It was in text messages, emails, et cetera. Now it's like, coach, man, like, what do you want to see? Like, click, 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 here it is. In
what about the rest of the 8 hours?
Right, yeah. So it's just things like that that really helped me run and operate and focus on revenue generating activities as a COO versus the system, right? Rachel, can we personalize the data fields? Yes. So
yeah, just about to say we got another question.
Yeah, Rachel, Billions comes a certain way out of the box. Tanner's kind of mentioned this a few times, but if there's a field that you want to edit, you can. If there's a field that doesn't exist that you want to exist, you can make it. If there's a report that you want to create, you can make it, and a list view, any kind of thing. I hate saying this, but the sky is the limit with being built on Salesforce with the amount of customization one can do. I know, Tannor, you've built quite a lot of custom dashboards and reportings just to kind of see it how you guys want to see it.
Yeah, so I was going to just say, before people go and like personalize and edit and change, make sure you understand what's already in the system, because with like you said, 130 different data points, there's already 100 different reports that are in there. So you should understand what those reports are, because what I failed to do was that, and I would go out and create my own report, and Andrew would be like, hey, this is like the money report. Just click that. It's already been made. It comes out of the box.
Right.
I got crap. Okay. So a lot of what we already track may not be exactly the way it's set up, but it's built already. Then you just go and add or edit, your fields, and it's done.
Right.
So that's what I do now. So
okay, I think we can go to the next slide, Brad. Also, just talked about this a lot, but everything is already built for you. Rachel, this is again talking to your question, but seriously, if it exists and you want to see it differently, even just kind of using this graphical representation here, you see a few examples of the widgets, like the 8 and that little box is a widget. The bar chart, that's called a widget of a report. It's a graphical representation showing you in some shape or form. You can even change that. If you like seeing a number versus a bar chart, you can go in and edit it yourself. And, a lot of people like to take in information a lot of different ways. That's the level of flexibility and customization one can have. But again, the biggest thing for me was the time saving of having it already pre-built. And a lot of our users take advantage of that. But the real kicker with analytics is what you do with it. The decision-making leadership on the team make at that level. And instead of spending 8 hours or a week putting together your data, now you're making real-time business decisions based on what is working. So by lead source. So, let's look at Google PPC as of right now versus the billboard that we just paid for versus the postcard A that we just sent out versus postcard B. You are seeing how many leads are coming in real time, how many appointments, and then the money's behind it. And we also track money 3 different ways. So, Will, this kind of goes into the latter part of your question of what deals are taking longer. We timestamp that as well, so you can see and set notifications if you want to. This has been active for 30 days, and it'll say, hey, here's a list of 30-day plus listings if you want it that way. But the big part is you can also project and predict through data that you have, so real tangible data of where your money is coming and what buckets. And it's very easy. It's 3 buckets, Tannor. We got the projected bucket of money. So that equals, project or off market coming soons, buyers that you have signed but haven't gone under contract with, or listings that are active. So if it doesn't move to the next phase, it's going to stay in that projected bucket. And then we have pending money, and then finally we have closed money. And we track our money too at the top line revenue. So, gross commission, all the costs of goods sold, to ultimately get you down to that net income. And it spits out a transaction receipt that your bookkeeper has that says, how much money we made from Bradley's listing, who got paid out and what, and how much net profit or loss that the company incurred for that particular individual deal. So you're doing that for lead sources, right? And to see and project what revenue is coming in and what is working. But we also do that for people on the team as well. So you can track on our team and on Tanner's team, we have appointment setters, we have agents. Those are kind of the two in the weeds personnel we have. And we're tracking a return on investment of our ISAs or our appointment setters. So if Brad is an appointment setter on my team and he's making $40K a year through July 10th, I can see that he's brought in, $400K already in gross revenue. That's a 10x return. Let's figure out what Brad's doing and train the rest of the team or the people that aren't doing as well. The same is true if Tanner's an appointment center on my team and I'm paying 40 grand a year, and he's brought in 100 grand. There's an issue there. The idea though is not to wait until July 10th to say, hey, Tanner's only brought in 4 deals. It's to know that within the first 3 weeks of the year, Tanner's struggling a little bit. Brad's doing really, really well. So let's see if we can, performance review, training, put Tannor under Brad's wing, et cetera. So you're not only seeing what's working from a lead source, but from agents in the field and appointment setters as well.
Yeah, Tannor, you can come right under my wing. I got you covered.
Yeah. I figured you probably sell better than I do. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked about analytics enough. Tannor, did you want to add anything before? Okay, cool. So
nope, I'm good.
Yeah. So just to kind of give you an overarching feature set view of Billions, we call this Billions Integrate, but we have a modular approach to the features that one could use or not use in Billions. And I'll take one example, direct mail. If you're on a team or you're running and operating your business and you might not do direct mail today, but you want the ability to do direct mail or to have a website, for example, Billions is kind of idling on the background to say, hey, we already built the integration for direct mail, for example. It's sitting there waiting for you to tell us to turn it on. And there's a speed to feature mentality here. I'll just go with the direct mail example since I'm on that one. If Tannor or any user doesn't need direct mail today, that's okay. We literally hide that functionality. But if he wants it in 2 weeks from now, he doesn't have to go out and interview direct mail house providers or figure out a developer to integrate it or stress about whether that's going to work or finding the money to do it. He simply comes to us, and this is Micronet was an instrumental part in this as well, helping us develop this piece of the technology. But he can say, hey guys, I now want direct mail, or I now want e-signature. And within 24 hours, we turn it on, and then the button pops up that says send mailer. And a really cool thing about the direct mail is you can send one-offs, which if you work with a typical direct mail house and order through them, they normally have minimums of 250 or 400 pieces, something like that. In Billions, you can send one-off postcards, one-off letters, or 50,000 postcards at a time, which is really great. So it's just a speed to functionality set. And from a day-to-day, we have that with calling, texting, direct mail, websites and IDX, data enrichment. We can have lead sources flow in automatically for you. We have telephone systems that can track where they're coming from, and then that direct mail piece. So from a day-to-day, like what do we need to do from an internal to external facing kind of activity, Billions comes ready at the waiting. So when you are growing and scaling, your team can grow and scale with it by turning these features on. Tannor, you have anything to add, or I think we could go to the next slide here?
No, I'm listening again and getting resold on my decision moving forward. And I was talking to someone not too long ago, and I just wish that I had or found something like this 5 years ago, 6 years ago. There's just a ton of business that I've probably lost over the years. I don't even want to think about, from just not having anything in place. So
Right. Yeah, you and me both. Like, I wish I had this platform myself 6 or 7 years ago before we kind of built out the prototype. Just time saving, money saving, kind of activities here. So the next slide, we have a feature set called Billions Transact, and this is also something that kind of sets us apart from a lot of the other platforms out there. And we ran into this problem because we worked with a lot of developers, and we would sell 10, 20 homes with them across, the year or over the year. And where I'm going with this is a lot of the pre-Billions platforms we would have is, I'll use Tannor, the developer, as an example. Tannor, the developer, would transact with us to sell 123 Main Street, and then I'd get a 456 Maple Street with them, and then a 789 Silver Street with them, and I'd have to make a Tannor 1, a Tannor 2, and a Tannor 3 lead to manage, right? In Billions, what we did is we created this one-to-many agreement relationship with the Tannor lead. So the Tannor lead would be our developer, and then I could simultaneously be working independently of each other, a selling or listing, a listing agreement for the first house, and then a listing agreement for the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. And you're independently tracking all of that, because that's what you do in real life, right? Each listing has its own people, deadlines, dates, documentation, money involved in it. And this allows you to do that. So it's going back to that predictable, repeatable step. You would go into Tannor's profile and say, hey, Billions, I signed a listing agreement with him. And you click on the listing agreement button, fill in the info for 123 Main Street, click save. It creates that first agreement. 2 weeks later, I signed another listing agreement with him for 456. I go to his same profile, I click the listing sign form again, and repeat the same thing over and over and over. So that's one way that just made our lives so much easier, because we were taking advantage of, number one, a clean database. I think that's super important to not have all these duplicates involved, but just the idea that anyone on the team can go into 123 Main Street and pull the disclosures. That's a huge time saver. And I wouldn't have to bother the administrative, person over that particular file. So when I say it's the source record, literally everything you would need about that transaction would be in the agreement as well. So that's how Billions transact functions. Brad, next slide. So Connect is also something, again, Micronet was the lead behind this, but this is where we really, really use technology to save clicks and to save manual pieces of the process. So I touched on this before, but we do have items called touch plans. It's essentially a cadence drip. We come with 11 out of the box, like can't reach lead, new seller lead, new buyer lead, and it drips them with text messaging, direct mail, emails, or tasks someone on the team to follow up or call. Those are customizable. You can create your own. Tannor, you guys have a bunch that you've done that have been, saving you guys time. We talked a little bit about communication, but we have something called Billions Communications behind the scenes as well, where you could say, hey, I want to send out this just listed postcard to everyone in Billions that has, that are in this particular zip code, that are labeled as sellers. And you hit go and it says there's 2,100 people there. You upload the postcard, you hit go, and it sends that out to everyone on that list. Reminders is something that was a massive, massive time saver for our team. So every date that exists in any transaction and that is a field in Billions, you can set what's called a reminder. And this syncs simultaneously back and forth between your calendar, again, on Google and Outlook. But if I sign, 123 Main Street, and it's got 10 different dates that need to be meticulously tracked by different team members, You set it up in Connect, kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. But I fill out the information. I'll use 2 examples. EMD due date of 11 July. I want to get reminded and Tannor wants to get reminded each and every time. You set that up, and once that field is populated, it automatically gets sent to my calendar and his calendar. And then X number of days before, it will remind you. In our setup, it's the day of, and then we have a templated, for example, title company email that says, hey, this EMD for this particular property is due. Title company, can you please confirm receipt? And that's true for every date that exists or any date that you create on your own. And you could say EMD goes to me and Tannor, but listing deadline or expiration date only goes to Tannor. So literally down to the individual field level is how you can have them going to and from calendars. And then the real cool thing is if the date changes, you make the change on one field and it automatically pulls off the old date from your calendar and puts it on the new date in your calendar. And then the last thing I touched on a lot, that omni-channel communication around texting, emailing, calling, and direct call. Next slide, please. And I think that does it for us.
Yeah, just some best practices on this slide. I think, George, would you like to take this one?
Sure. So some of the best practices we recommend is with any projects that identifying the stakeholders who will be involved. But before I get into this slide, I just want to touch on a couple of points. Is everything that Andrew mentioned, those excellent point business. So Andrew has a huge experience in real estate sector and ran into all these business problems and then came up with a idea how to best solve, right? Andrew, you ran into problems where you had to associate, you had multiple records for the same builder with duplicate records and duplicate properties. How do you best reconcile that? I think that was a great point. And taking all those business problems and turning it into a solid solution, right? That's what Andrew ended up doing with Billions package, because as a Salesforce implementation partner over a decade, we have handled different verticals, real estate and legal and different verticals. But in real estate, we have been handling for many years. So when Andrew came to us with what he was working with, we thought it was a brilliant way to take his business knowledge of handling this sector for a long time, and then using technology like Salesforce to build an excellent package where he already knows like all these business cases he ran into. So you don't have to go and recreate it yourself or figure out all these solutions. So just wanted to say Billions just from as a technology company, we think it's an excellent solution. That's why we're working together. And so I think some of the solutions Andrew has done and put into the package, I think that takes care of problems, 90% of the problems real estate in business you'll run into, right? And so I just wanted to mention that. And then in what we have seen in some cases in the process of running technology, that's where companies like us come into play. Is we not only implement the technology, we make the business problems, solve the business problems using technology. Andrew is the one architecting the solution from a business perspective. We are doing the actual technology piece, converting business requirement into technology. And also what we do is once the technology is up and running, you're using it, but then you need people who can administer and run the system. And not every company has the budget to hire an admin themselves. And so we also have an admin team that can be your technology administrator without paying for a full-time salary. So those are the two sectors we cover, right? In case you're wondering where Micronet comes to play into the whole Billions and Salesforce. So we implement Salesforce, we turn visions like Andrew's into reality, and support an ongoing admin and in difficult cases where standard out of the box may not work. So those one-off cases, obviously with Salesforce platform, you can do anything your mind can imagine. So that's where we come into play. But going back to question Bradley had. So best practices, I assume this is best practices in terms of implementing Billions.
Yeah, pretty much. Just like preparation, just like how to manage your data, how to get everyone involved prior to implementation or during implementation, anything.
Sure.
Any best
So,
practices?
so with any platform that's implemented, it's data is garbage in, garbage out. Andrew has thought of all the best practices that's needed for you to run your business. But at the end, Andrew is not going to know your unique situations, right? So you'll have to gather the data, prepare your data. So during implementations, Andrew and team will, and Andrew, you feel free to chime in, but it will work on guide you in the process. Like you need to prepare this data and you need to get it into this format. Then, uploading, migrating the data into the system and getting it ready for you. Teams like at Salesforce admin teams like us, we can definitely help and act as the technology arm doing it or getting the migration done for you. But then you will also need to be involved in terms of understanding your own data and cleaning it up. A lot of people struggle. You may have data in 10 different places. So before you can get into Billions, obviously you'll have to collect the data, work with us in transforming it. Andrew, did I capture that?
Yeah, I'll just expand a little bit, but it's kind of like to each his own, George. One thing I'll say is we've done this enough times where we have our onboarding processes down to a science, and we know exactly what needs to be done and who. And I'll also just add, we typically white glove concierge like approach onboarding. So this is kind of like Tannor was the first one that went through this, so he probably had a way different experience than a customer we brought on like this week or last week. But we try to take all of the needs to be done off of the customer, and we take that in partnership with you guys, and that involves data migration and data management as well. But we I think when we first started, there was probably like 15 or 20 items or pieces of homework that we would need to get from the customer. Now we have it down to, tell us your users, what permission or roles you want them to have. Are they going to have a dialer? Do they need a phone number? That sort of thing. And then we handle everything for them. The data migration part is the to each his own. We have people that don't have any clue where their data is, and they say, you know what, I'm starting from scratch. And then we did a 210,000 record migration. Amber, our COO, worked with you all, and that was like a big project to do. But I think Tannor had like 120, 50,000. This was years ago. But we can't help you there. The idea there, George, is if you want to do it, you have the autonomy to do it, right? And I'm not just talking about data migration. I'm talking about customization, adding fields, doing what you want with the platform. Or we can hold your hand through it and teach you and help you do it, or we can just do it for you. So you have all those options. But we can get what we need, George, from a customer, excluding data migration, because that is a massive, wild card. We can get a customer onboarded up and ready in about 2 weeks on average. There's a bit of a backlog, so you'll get your queue in line. But if George, you're a customer and I get the spreadsheet back of all your teammates and phone numbers and all that good stuff, it's about 2 weeks to get you your platform where you can use it.
That's right. I think that's exactly right. And with that's been our experience in the real estate sector. And some companies, if you're doing a massive, especially on the hybrid side, if you're doing a massive marketing and lots of data coming into your system, and so that's where I think migration wise, doing the proper mapping and migrating. So it makes sense. That's why I think it's a genius solution where you're just starting off, you don't have a system, or maybe you want to start fresh. You can good to go. And Andrew has already thought of all the scenarios, or even one of the hybrid. Either way, I mean, this is a great solution.
Yeah, and I'll add, we have something called a sandbox or a test environment on the back end, and we've done this a lot with Tannor and a bunch of our other customers. But our goal here and our job, quite frankly, is to not disrupt your day-to-day business or activities, right? Like stuff happens, like sometimes maybe that would take place, but when you do some level of customization, we start in the sandbox or test environment, and then the customer quality check it and say, yes, that's exactly how I envisioned it. This is perfect. And then we choose a date after hours or typically on the weekends to roll whatever feature out to your production or live organization or platform.
Yeah.
We're very systematic and conscious of that. So we don't roll out a feature that breaks everything, and then 50 people on the team not being able to do something. So we're very careful in that regard. So just wanted to add that in there too.
No, great point. That is the industry best practice for different verticals, and every company has different policy on what date roll can be done, what's the blackout, etc. So yeah.
We're running short on time, so I'm gonna move on to the next slide here. But this is basically what Micronet handles. I'm sure George, you can take this, and big part of this is like user adoption and training. So talking about rolling out and implementing this, I think that's a huge piece to it.
Sure. So as an implementation company for real estate and other sectors, one of the key points, like I was touching base, is massive data migration. So in those data migration, it needs to be properly mapped out. Data needs to be formatted into standard format, so it can be loaded into whatever system it's going into. In this case, Billions. What backup type of policy you're going to have? Like Andrew was touching base, migration strategy, testing, and using sandbox and rolling out, like all those things Andrew just covered. Like that's right. So that's typically how that works. We have training programs to get you up to speed, and we can, like Andrew was saying, we can customize system to infinity, right? Based on, you may have need integrations with another external system that you want to bring in data or send data, or maybe you want to integrate with your QuickBooks, right? Regardless of what it is, that's why we come into where nowadays people like to have everything connected, and so Billions Connect is there but then you can do much more addition to that, and like I said, we also, one of the biggest thing we do is we can work as a managed services team. So you can choose to handle it internally as the business owner. Maybe you spend 5-10 hours doing it yourself, or you might just spend your time doing the selling real estate and focusing on that, and leave system administration to companies like us, where we have dedicated team members trained on real estate, and their job is to administer the system on behalf of 100 real estate companies. So you can leverage that and not have to hire internal resources. So that is one of the main services that we provide.
George, I'll also give a little bit of a kudos to Micronet. Before we formed our relationship, kind of did that, like handled it ourselves. There's a major difference, though, being able to leverage and pass off a requirement or a project, especially to people who know what they're doing. And the one thing I really love about working with you all is I don't have to architect it. I give you, hey, this is what I want, with the team. And you all come back and say, here's the best possible way. And it's really funny always working with Anmal and Tafayette, where you can kind of see their brains working, and they'll be like, hey, should we do it this way? No, do it that way. And then it comes out and it's like, man, I was not expecting that at all. And it's always something above and beyond my, hey, can you make it do like this and that? And then you make it do this and that in a very, very, very smart, economical way. So I love working with the team. It's been so great so far, and I'm really looking forward to. We have a lot of open projects right now, George. So I'm waiting. Yeah. Our customers are waiting for those to get pushed out to them, and I think they're really going to enjoy the upgrades that we're pushing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think we also enjoy working with the Billions package because we have team members working in different sectors and with different solutions, and we have different app exchange solutions that we implemented, and support a lot of different verticals. But it's always good to work with a solution and an architect like Andrew, like a real estate architect, I would say, because Andrew is the one thinking up how he can make lives of other real estate companies better, and then coming to us with that idea, and we are helping with the technology component of it. But then once it's all up and running, if internally you need an admin to help run day-to-day operation, we have a separate team that does that here as well. So I think it's a good synergy back and forth.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, at the end of the day, this whole thing was to buy back your precious time to go to your kids' games and to spend time with family, not to have to be at the office, digging through data and trying to figure out what the heck is happening in your business. So that's why it exists.
Yeah.
George, would you like to talk a little about our reporting operations?
Yeah, so I don't think we need to go through this, but in general, I mean, the Billions package has, like Andrew was saying, 139 different reporting data points out there. I think here, what this is our process in terms of clients who work with us on a regular basis. We, especially if you are a managed service client, we have a process in place where we act like as if we're your employees, but you do get weekly. We work with you on a daily basis, but you have a weekly reporting to letting you know all the different things we worked on. We have ongoing training for your employees. They can reach out to a new employee, come in, onboarding, getting them used to with the system. So we have a full process in place in terms of how we support other real estate companies. So, yeah.
Nice. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add? I think we're getting pretty close to the Q&A here. Is there anything else? Good. We won't have very much time for the Q&A, but this is also Micronet's information, but I wanted to ask a question for Andrew. What does the future of Billions look like?
Oh man, honestly, I had this discussion with someone I was demoing it to a few hours ago, and it's how to even make it even less cumbersome, I think. And what I mean by that is this might open up a whole can of worms, but an AI type of feature or integration where it's doing the digging through the leads for you, and being on top of Salesforce, we have access to their Einstein AI data analytics capability, but we're very slow to roll those types of features out because it kind of remains to be seen what these chatbots say and do, and kind of gets stuck on sometimes. And then the real future is potentially these appointment setter voices that literally make outbound calls and have conversations. I've heard really good stuff, and I've heard really, really bad stuff about like the script restarting when they get caught up on a question it's not able to answer. But that's most likely going to be something that we'll take a really, really good look at in the future. So I hope that answers your question, Brad.
Yeah,
We
I know,
should.
George, you have a lot of experience when it comes with and chatbots, especially with lead generation. Do you have anything to add on that?
No, absolutely. I was going to say, Bill, Andrew, we should talk because we have an app exchange app, Lead Life, which we haven't promoted yet, which is AI app. What that is it fits perfectly into scenario other applications like Billions and others, where we are focusing on AI component of it, looking at all this data. And for example, where Andrew was saying, if you're looking at a lead, you have conversation. So now with different phone packages, you can record the conversation, transcribe it. That could be in Salesforce. That could be in Billions. You can have your text messages. That's also in Billions, right? You're sending out emails. That's also in the system. So then our AI engines, what they would do, they would look at all those data points and then automatically give you feedback on what you can go to. Like in our own org, we can go and see like what is happening with the client. Is my staff properly working on it? Or if it's a deal, how good is this lead going? And we also incorporated that into a chat system. Like we know all the historical background of what happened in that lead. Now that customer suddenly texts you asking a question, and a lot of times nowadays people like instant gratification, right? They don't want to wait till next day. They want some information right there. So we are fine tuning our AI to see, okay, based on all the conversation they had with our staff through text and email and all these different places, can I respond to this person? So then they stay interested, right? So we're experimenting with that kind of functionality. And we started with the legal sector. We're also looking at the real estate sector as well. Also, we are working on a lot of times these old, really large contracts and historic documents, and even in real estate, like really old, large real estate contracts. So when you procure different buildings, so a lot of these documents come in that has to be manually gone through and parsed out. So our AI is also, we're optimizing it to extract the most important data points you need. So you feed those documents in, then it automatically grab the data, post it into your system. So we're working with a lot of interesting ideas involving AI, and definitely we'll probably partner with Andrew and others in the sector in those functionalities.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely should have known with that question. Everything leads back to AI nowadays.
Pretty much,
But, yeah, pretty much. It's definitely a buzzword, but that's the future right there is AI.
And I should say Salesforce is coming up with their own Einstein GPT. It is a great platform. And the only thing we're doing that for like enterprise level clients, but it is very, very expensive in terms of you have to implement the data platform, and you have to all the implementation. Obviously, if Client implements it, we're an implementation company. That's you work with companies like us in implementing it. So, which large companies, they have budget to do it, and we're happy to take it. We're happy to do it. But what I'm seeing is a lot of small and medium-sized clients that would be clients who are using billions, right? That level, non-enterprise level. I think using an expensive solution like that is difficult. I'm sure those prices may come down at some point, but right now, the way the standard features that are getting rolled out by Salesforce with Einstein GPT, it will be pricey. So this is where we have our own AI model that works through the Salesforce API, and it sits outside. It uses multiple AI engine, not just one, and then to come up with it. And so it's cheaper than implementing the whole Einstein platform. Out of the box Salesforce platform, Einstein is going to take a while. So that's why I think our solution is key to getting people going right now. Like if you wait till all that stabilizes, it's already too late, because right now I can tell you the work we can do with AI, we're already 10 times faster than others. So if you're not using AI right now, we're already, every single client that communicates to us, if you could be talking to us over 10 different emails, it's automatically summarized in our system. I can go in and see, okay, these are the 10 different talk tracks that happened with the customer. I can easily have AI firing up, okay, there's some problem going on with this client, you may want to intervene, right? Or someone wants a scope of work, I can just quickly, using all the historic stuff and my AI, I can generate something and get it going. Or if I need to do a scope or creating a BRD, it's all AI based. It would have taken me 10 times more time. So if you are not already doing it, you're already 10 times behind me, like if you're one of the companies like us. So just imagine everyone's going to fall behind. Like anyone who embraces AI, they delay 2 years, 3 years, you're already behind.
Right.
So
yeah, would love to talk to you about that. Interesting stuff happening in the AI world, but Brad, I think that's the future of where we're. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're closing up here. I haven't seen any more questions in the chat, so I'm going to assume there are no more questions. So I want to thank everyone for joining, and thank you all for chiming in and putting in your input and introducing Billions. And then, obviously, thank you, George, for introducing Microntnetbd. I think we had some very positive discussions, a lot of intriguing ideas bouncing around. So I want to thank everyone. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Tannor. Thank you, George. I'll let you all go. And I want to thank everyone who was watching. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you feel free to contact us. I will send out some emails within the next week or so on our contact information. And then if you guys would like, you guys can email me back, and then I can send out the recording of the webinar. If you guys want to, rewatch or just narrow in on some of the topics we discussed today, feel free to do so and reach out. I just want to thank everyone for joining. So thank you guys so much. See you
I
guys.
just want to say it was, thank you, Andrew and Tannor, both of you for doing this. And Andrew is one of my most favorite clients, and we love Andrew. And honestly, because I think you were a genius in coming up with a solution and how you solved because we have seen other real estate companies struggle, right? Using solving problems a lot of different ways, and they come to us. And so when we saw your solution, we thought, wow, this is you actually made it super organized. So yep.
Well, George, thank you for having me. And I will need a recording of this, Brad, because I don't think anyone has ever used that adjective to describe me. So I need evidence, video evidence, proof of that.
We'll just cut that part out.
No, but thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Tannor, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Nice to meet everybody again, and have a good day.
All right, you too. Bye, guys.
Thanks.